All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer on the major forms of literature. Whether you're a hardcore English lit student or just someone who genuinely loves a good book, understanding exactly how literature is built, it absolutely changes the way you read. I want you to think of this explainer as a grand tour through a writer's ultimate toolbox. Every single time a writer sits down to share a deep emotion, tell an epic story, or document history, they've got to choose a very specific vehicle to deliver that message straight to you. And today, we're going to unpack exactly what those vehicles are.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 1. What are literary forms? 2. Poetry. 3. Drama. 4. Prose. 5. Fiction versus nonfiction. And we'll wrap it all up with 6. The ultimate literature quiz.
Kicking things off with Section 1. What are literary forms?
So how do we take the absolute chaos of human emotion and neatly categorize it onto a page? Well, forms of literature are simply the main ways writers express their thoughts, their ideas, feelings, and experiences through language. Before we start slicing literature down into all its separate, distinct parts, it's absolutely crucial to remember this one core truth. All literature is, at the end of the day, just a vehicle for human expression. The form is really just the specific shape that expression takes to best reach you, the reader.
Moving right along to Section 2, Poetry.
Let's anchor poetry to 2 absolutely essential words: feelings and imagination. Poetry is this highly specialized form of literature that writers use to express deep, profound emotions and ideas. But here's the catch: it doesn't just use normal, everyday speech. Nope, it uses carefully chosen words, a very specific rhythm, vivid imagery, and, sometimes rhyme. It's basically language sculpted into art, right? It's a space where the actual sound and beat of the words matter just as much as their literal meaning.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how varied poetry can be. You have the highly structured sonnet, the praising ode, the mourning elegy, the grand epic, and the musical lyric. To give you a super concrete example of this imaginative vehicle in action, just think of William Wordsworth's famous poem Daffodils. He didn't just write out a dry botanical report for us. He used rhythm and beautiful imagery to capture the pure, overwhelming joy of seeing a field of yellow flowers. He made that fleeting feeling absolutely unforgettable.
Which brings us to Section 3, Drama. Now, when we step off the page and onto the stage, the crucial point becomes super clear. Drama equals performance and dialogue. Unlike poetry or standard books, drama is specifically written to be brought to life by live actors right in front of an audience. The text itself, it's almost like a blueprint. It's meant to be spoken out loud, deeply felt, and physically acted out.
Let's break down the structural components of this performative tool. Drama relies super heavily on characters, actions, and distinct scenes to push a story forward. The major types you're going to encounter are tragedy, comedy, and, well, a fun blend of both called tragicomedy. And honestly, you just can't talk about drama without mentioning the ultimate master of the form. William Shakespeare's Macbeth is a premier, classic example of a tragic drama. It literally isn't meant to be read silently in a cozy armchair. It requires the blood, sweat, and vocal power of live actors to truly terrify and captivate an audience.
All right, shifting gears to Section 4, Prose.
So, we are dropping the theatricality and those poetic rhythms for something a little bit more familiar. Prose equals ordinary language. This is our everyday vehicle of expression. It completely lacks the regular, measured rhythm or rhyming schemes of poetry, and instead it just relies on standard sentences and paragraphs. It flows a lot like our natural conversation, which makes it the single most common form of written language you interact with every single day.
And because it's so standard, prose is incredibly broad. I mean, it encompasses the novel, the short story, the essay, the biography, and the autobiography. Consider Charles Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities for a second. It is this massive, sweeping epic of the French Revolution, yet the whole shebang is constructed entirely using the brilliant, enduring power of everyday language.
Next up, Section 5, Fiction versus Nonfiction.
Now, because prose is such a ridiculously vast category, we really need to contrast its 2 main branches directly. First up, we have fiction. This is imaginative writing. The events and characters are entirely dreamed up by the writer's mind. Think novels and short stories. Even if they're heavily inspired by real life, they're still made up. Then on the flip side, we have nonfiction. This is firmly anchored in cold, hard facts. It's based mainly on real people, historical events, and actual information. Think biographies, autobiographies, and essays. So simply put, fiction relies on imagination, while nonfiction is built on facts. And here we go, Section 6, the ultimate literature quiz. Let's see what you've learned.
All right, folks, we have covered a lot of ground today. Before I test you, here is your quick cheat sheet. Let's lock these mnemonic anchors into your memory right now. Poetry expresses ideas and emotions artistically. Drama is written to be performed. Prose is written in ordinary language. Fiction is imaginative writing, and nonfiction is fact-based writing. Go ahead and take a mental snapshot of this.
Okay, time for question number 1. Which form of literature is written to be performed? Think about it for just a second. If you said drama, you are absolutely correct. It's all about the stage and the live audience.
Moving right along to question 2. What is the difference between fiction and nonfiction? The key takeaway to remember here is that fiction is fueled by imagination and created by the writer, whereas nonfiction is built entirely on real people, real events, and actual facts.
All right, question 3 is a bit of a memory challenge. Name any 2 types of poetry. I gave you a list of 5 earlier. Do you remember them? Well, if you named a sonnet, an ode, an elegy, an epic, or a lyric, you absolutely nailed it.
Question 4. What is prose? How did we define it compared to poetry and drama? Prose is simply writing in ordinary, everyday language using standard sentences. It's the standard format for novels, essays, and pretty much most of what we read on a daily basis.
And that brings us to our final, somewhat provocative question. I really want you to chew on this after this explainer ends. If you were to write your own life story, which tool from the literary toolbox would you reach for? Would you choose the emotional rhythm of poetry, the lively stage of drama, or the ordinary conversational language of prose? The truly beautiful thing about literature is that the choice is entirely yours. Keep learning, keep exploring that literary toolbox of yours, and hey, thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.